Cos'è? Sì. Cos'è? Sì.
in the Dred Scott nobody viewing. I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna bring this back on here. There we are. Beautiful. There we go. That fixes everything. So that's normal. Fix that one because that one is messed up. No, not necessarily messed up. I just need to put a timer on it. good to see what's going on here. Really? Hard criticism, huh? I will now go into this. Let me see here. Is this not in here? Why is it not on file in here? Here. This is not. Where are you? Pictures. Keep forgetting a lot of my stuff is in the opposite part of this video. Or not in video, but okay. I was in pictures here. Okay, yeah, that's right. Now, put video capture, and I don't know why that was not saved before, but it's saved now. Okay. Okay. Well, before we go into the Obama situation here, we're going to do the typical NYC agrees to pay $13 million or nearly $10K each to protesters beaten, arrested in 2020 Black Lives Matter demonstrations. So, essentially, what we have here is a very interesting, always say, thing for New York City to do. So, what we have here is that we pretty much allow people to commit crimes and attack and all that stuff when you are BLM, because you guys get rewarded. I'm assuming that's what the case here is. So you're just rewarded for doing crimes, setting things on fire, blowing stuff up. Like, it's just insanity. So we have New York City has agreed to pay more than $13 million or nearly $10,000 each to demonstrators who were arrested or beaten by cops during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests over the police killing of George Floyd in Minnesota. The proposed class action settlement, which still needs to be approved by a judge, will be one of the most expensive payouts awarded in connection with a mass arrest lawsuit in history, according to experts. This agreement, filed in Manhattan federal court on Wednesday, would award most of the approximately 1,300 plaintiffs who were arrested for subjected to force by police about $10,000 each, according to their attorneys. The lawsuit filed against the city then Bill de Blasio and Commissioner Dermot Shea, as well as other police officials and officers, argue that the thousands of New Yorkers who exercised their constitutional rights were corralled into places where they could not escape during the widespread demonstrations. Well, here's the thing, though, right? I mean, normally if you're setting things on fire, beating people, killing people, causing problems with other people, you should not really be allowed to escape, right? Like, I mean, this is kind of obvious. Last time I checked, criminals are not supposed to be running around, causing mischief, causing mayhem to other people, destroying your business. Like, that should not be allowed. So you escaping is not a thing that I probably would want them to do. I would like them to be arrested and put in jail for an exit period of time that is adequate to their, well, obviously to their crime. Now, how long that jail should be or that crime should be, that's up in the air. Like, I think if you are a child grabber or something along those lines, you should probably be never see the light again. Mostly due to the fact that you're most likely to reoffend, and there's most likely not a cure, and trying to cure these type of people is not possible. Yeah, just don't be a child grabber, and we'll be fine. Of course, being a child grabber is a interesting situation here. We have this, that the plaintiffs were beaten with batons, sprayed with pepper spray, and arrested without lawful justification, all without fair warning. Lawyers argued in the court documents. Plaintiffs marching against racially targeted police brutality were allegedly physically restrained and put in dangerously close quarters, all in height of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Lawyers said arguing the same tactics were not used during similarly sized protests of different issues, according to the complaint. It was so disorganized but so intentional, said Adam Snow. So, a plaintiff who claimed their group of marchers were corrected by the police, placed in zip ties until their hands turned purple and held on a hot bus for hours. Again, I don't see to where this is a problem. Also, beat with batons, this has to be, you need to show actual evidence of this specifically happening here because I don't know. With pepper spray as well, pepper spray is normally a good deterrent for obviously making people not want to not commit violence, and I think arrested without lawful justification. Well, I think we've all seen the BLM riots, right? I think we've seen them to where they're mostly committing crimes, they're setting things on fire, attacking people. So I think they had a lawful justification to arrest these said people, unless you just wanted mayhem in the streets, which is kind of like the Democrat motive right now, where they just want mayhem in the streets and all that. So I don't know where they're going with this. They seem set on traumatizing everyone. The settlement agreement applies to projects at 18 marches or demonstrations in Brooklyn and Manhattan, May 2028 and June 4th of 2020. During more than 2 years of litigation, city attorneys argue police tactics have been scaled to manage the chaotic situation, and pointed to incidents where some unruly protesters have thrown objects at police or set their cars on fire. Lawyers also argued that on June 4th, 2020, violent assault on protesters in Bronx Haven section exemplified the worst of the NYPD's unconstitutional protest policy and tactics and insufficient training, claiming police trapped volunteer medics and organizers so they would not be able to comply with a citywide curfew or orders to disperse before attacking them. The lawsuit noted that Shea, then the NYPD commissioner, defended the tactics employed by officers during that protest, saying they executed the policing nearly flawlessly. I would not say so. I think NYPD has some issues, but I think the NYPD police have been mostly beaten down in terms of all the horrible anti-police policies that's happening in New York. So, yeah, I don't think where they feel very inclined to do much. I mean, cops can go and arrest somebody, but they'll probably be out in the next few days or something like that because the way the policies are. And honestly, I don't really feel bad for the people in New York because they kind of voted for this type of stuff, so you get what you deserve, honestly. Some 300 demonstrators, my bad, killed or beaten by cops in that incident were awarded at least $21,500 each and a $6 million settlement with the city earlier this year. They were excluded from Wednesday's settlement agreement. The city did not admit fault in connection with the lawsuit, but started to avoid politically fraught rehazing of the events at trial and resolve the issues raised in this litigation without further proceedings, court documents said. During the protest, the city had invoked qualified immunity to protect officers from lawsuits and continued to deny the NYPD's methods violated the civil rights of New Yorkers in settlement. There is no history, or present, or future, or constitutional policing, Georgia Pacina, attorney for the city, wrote in a memo. There is no frequent deprivation of constitutional rights. The class action in question did not look to force the NYPD to change its procedures, but other ongoing litigation is aimed at achieving that goal, including a suit brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James that demands a federal monitor to oversee the NYPD's protest policies. The demonstrations came as national outrage about police brutality against black people reached a boiling point on May 26, when a clip of former Minneapolis cop Derek Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes the day prior went viral. Floyd, who was killed during the encounter, was unarmed and suspected of using a counterfeit $20 bill to buy cigarettes. So, yeah. I would see that. But see, here's the thing. They always go down to Derek Chauvin. But I always want to know what there was another guy that's called, I think I believe his name is David Shaver. And that guy also brutalized a cop in every which way. Not a cop, but an actual civilian. And that was, dare I say, almost more brutal than the Floyd situation, and that never made headlines. It only made headlines when a black man was accosted. Which, again, I don't think the Derek Chauvin thing was good or right at all. I think that was a travesty that should never have happened. However, in this instance, they are showing one side of police brutality on one side and then never listen to the other side to the next. I mean, if we really want to fight police brutality, we need to be able to obviously do some type of reform, fix some issues that are within the police area, and try to do some federal changes or what have you. I think there should be a lot more there. Now, I would like to interview a cop and see what type of policies and things that are in place there for policies that are in place in the police academy and stuff like that. Of course, I am going to assume that every police station and county, etc., is different. So therefore, obviously, in this regard, there's going to be different rules and stuff like that. But we need to get to a actual normal rule of what's happening in the police academy, what's happening in these areas to actually make some legitimate changes. With this here, these are not really changes that I see that we need to implement it, because it seems that the police were trying to stop violent individuals from doing more violent stuff, and now they're getting forced to pay $13 million. This is going to really make the police not want to protect anybody at all, and honestly just let the protesters, when there is another riot that happens, to just go roam free and do whatever the hell they want. And because they just don't want the people to pay $13 million. Just don't want to pay $13 million for something like this. Now we have some other crazy stuff here. We have breaking: man found dead on Obama estate, identified as Obama's personal chef. Yeah, this man was apparently killed out of Obama's area here. And so we're going to do a little bit more work on this. The 43-year-old man who drowned while paddleboarding off the Edgartown coast of Martha's Vineyard on Sunday has been identified as a personal chef to Barack and Michelle Obama. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Jafari Campbell was a White House chef before coming on in the personal employ of the Obamas after President Obama left office in 2017. Divers recovered his body just before 10 a.m. from Edgartown Great Pond, on which the Obama's family 12 million matches flies. In the past, Campbell wrote the words "still can't swim" in the form of hashtag on an Instagram post. Another social media post showed the chef swimming, seemingly doing so decently. Do you want to say the decently here? Because I don't know, I feel like I can do this. Assuming, for that part. I mean, that's okay, I guess. Yeah, I guess you could say that's decently. I mean, it's I can't really judge too much. Mostly just due to the fact that, I can't swim worth a crap, and I don't like water in the first place. So, there's that. Massachusetts State Police said Campbell was from Dumfries, VA, and was visiting Martha's Vineyard at the time of his passing. President and Miss Obama were not present at the residence at the time of the accident, the Chicago Sun-Times reported. In a statement, the Obamas praised Campbell, saying Jafari was a beloved part of our family when we first met him. He was a talented sous chef at the White House, creative and passionate about food and his ability to bring people together. In the years that followed, we got to know him as a warm, fun, extraordinary, kind person who made all our lives a little brighter. That's why when we were getting ready to leave the White House, we asked Jafari to stay with us, and he generously agreed. He's been part of our great lives ever since, and our hearts are broken that he's gone. Today, we join everyone who knew and loved Jafari, especially with his wife Charisse and their twin boys Xavier and Salvin, and grieving the loss of a truly wonderful man. The Obama's multi-million-dollar vacation estate on Martha's Vineyard saw a massive response from emergency responders when accounts emerged of a man dressed in black without a life preserver paddleboarding off the coast. He was seen to be struggling. Another paddleboarder had been with a male at the time and saw him go underwater. The recovery was made around 100 feet from shore, where water was around 8 feet in depth. Numerous agencies responded, including Edgartown Fire and all island fire departments, local police, state police patrols, air wing and detectives, the Dukes County Sheriff's Department, and the Coast Guard. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. The only thing that I find odd and strange is the fact that this man was specifically found dead in Martha's Vineyard near Obama's estate. So, that being said, it's really concerning that this is a man that was found dead on Obama's estate. That's the biggest concern here. I don't know what's going on over there, but I think an investigation needs to be investigated on the Obamas 100%. I have to say it. Because I'm gonna be honest. The mere fact of this is that we have a man, a chef, that was found dead on the Obama estate, and it was Obama's personal chef. And now we see this as being possibly a terrible, a terrible a course of action here, right? And I think the Obamas need to be investigated because you can't just ignore not investigating them because he was found on their property, obviously deceased. So now we have to come to the conclusions: who killed this man? What was the case? What was the reason? And I think we'll probably end up finding more later on. But yeah, but there's still more to this story. It's not quite over. We have witness recounts moments before Obama chef Campbell's paddleboard death. The person who was paddleboarding with Obama's personal chef when he drowned near the Martha's Vineyard estate had tried desperately to save him, according to officials. The unidentified fellow paddleboarder tried to swim to Jafari Campbell 45, but did not reach him in time. Massachusetts State Police said in a statement, Mass Live reported. Now, there is a good chance that this man here was possibly, he may have had a heart attack or some random condition to where he couldn't move, like a heart attack, and he died. He was having a heart attack while underwater, and he just happens to pass away underwater, which is a strong possibility. But it looked like this man was in good shape, though. So it is a weird way for him to randomly have a heart attack or some type of weird condition to where that may have happened. But of course, it's a possibility, right? We can't ignore that possibility of that be happening. He is 45. He could have some type of range of health issues that could have happened randomly. But again, this is all going off of speculation, and we just don't know. The Obamas could be the cause of it. The Obamas could not have been the cause of it. He could have had a actual medical condition that made him drown or die in the water. So there's a lot of questionable things here that we need to ask, that we need to answer before we come to an actual full conclusion. The person who saw Campbell losing his balance and falling into the water then swam to shore and alerted someone who could then call 911, according to the report. A witness saw Campbell, who was not wearing a life jacket and wasn't tethered to the board, struggling to stay afloat in his final moments, officials said. So what we're seeing here is that he fell in, so he could have easily had a condition here. This is obvious. The probe into the tragedy has been completed, and there was no evidence to suggest that the death was suspicious, police said, adding that an autopsy has been completed, but that toxicology report could take weeks. Campbell was found Monday in 8 feet of water, about 100 feet from the banks of the Obama's property and on Edgetree Great Pond. Yeah, here. Authorities responding to reports of a possible drowning at Kirkland Cove Road on Sunday evening. The former first family was not home at the time of the tragedy, officials said. My heart is broken. My life and our family is forever changed. Cherise Campbell wrote of her husband on Instagram Tuesday. Campbell, who also leaves behind 2 sons, was the sous chef at the White House during Obama's terms in office, where he was known for brewing beer using honey from Michelle Obama's bees. When the Obamas left D.C., Campbell joined their personal staff. Jafari was a beloved part of our family, they said in a joint statement Monday. Today we join everyone who knew loved Jafari, especially his wife Cherise and their twin boys Xavier and Savin, and grieving the loss of a truly wonderful man. It is a tragedy, and I wonder what's going on here. And this respect to the chef. I need a lot more stuff going on. I don't know what's going on there, so thanks a lot for showing that, NYP. God. So yeah, I wonder what's going on. I want to find the actual reasons here, why this man fell in or what have you. I just need a lot more information going on. We have this. So we have LeBron James on Bronny suffers cardiac arrest at USC practice. LeBron James confirmed the scare involving his son as he prepared for his first season with the Trojans and a statement to TMZ. Monday, while practicing, Bronny James suffered a cardiac arrest. The family said medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital. He is now in stable condition and no longer in ICU. We ask for respect and privacy for the James family, and we will update media when there is more information. Bronny was rushed to the hospital after a 911 call was made at 9:26 a.m. from the Grantland Center, where U.S. practices Bronny. 18 was a 4-star recruit after starring at Sierra Canyon High School in Chatsworth, California. LeBron and Savannah wish to publicly send their deepest thanks and appreciation to the USC medical and athletic staff for their incredible work and dedication to the safety of their athletes, the statement said. According to TMZ, Bronny was unconscious before he was taken by ambulance to the hospital. A 911 dispatcher can also be heard saying unconscious in audio obtained by the outlet. The medical emergency was Code 3 according to TMZ, which signifies emergency teams arriving at the scene with ambulance lights and sirens. Bronny, the oldest son of James, is entering this freshman year at USC. In May, he announced his commitment to play the Trojans next season, writing the school's slogan, "Fight On," in a post on Instagram. Bronny, a 6'3" combo guard, averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists at Sierra Canyon in his senior season, during which he was named McDonald's All-American. In March, Bronny completed the slam dunk competition at the high school showcase, which took place 20 years after his dad won the dunk contest as part of the McDonald's All-American festivities. So yeah, this is all extra stuff. I don't see to where this really matters, but obviously, this is something that he's under cardiac arrest, and considering how young he is, I don't see why this man needs to has suffered even remote kind of a cardiac arrest, right? I think this is a questionable thing entirely on how an 18-year-old gets cardiac arrest. It's very odd, and we're seeing a lot more of these things prop up recently, especially in the past year. So it's 2 years at this point, and how a man 18 gets cardiac arrest and proceeds to fall unconscious is questionable. And he wasn't in a game, he wasn't anywhere near, and he gets cardiac arrest. A lot of people want to say, like, oh, it's not this or that, which you guys know what we're talking about here. Yeah, I think it's obvious what's going on here. I don't have to say the words to know what to say the words and tell you guys what's going on, and yeah, it's interesting that this happened to this young man here. Makes you wonder what's really going on with that so-called juice that is really making us feel great inside, right? Well, more. Well, we have some stuff here. We have this with Vivek Ramaswamy, which I said was going to happen. So you all get to see this man in action, get to see what he has with his political views and whatnot. So here we go, further ado, Vivek Ramaswamy. Obviously, this is stuff that we have to go out with. So right now, what we see is just, Joy Reid, probably the most racist person on the planet, talk about Vivek Ramaswamy and the affirmative action, etc., stuff like that. So without further ado, here is it.
Had a back and forth on the Twitters with one Vivek Ramaswamy, who currently is boasting about getting, who was the only African-American anchor in this business before I joined him in Prime at CNN, Don Lemon. He's boasting about getting him fired. He thinks that is somehow going to be a big, flag for his run for president. Your thoughts on him? Because you've been back and forth with him online.
When he first started, I thought, okay, here's an Indian American, funny name. We disagree. Hopefully, he makes a good showing or does something well. And it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, Joy. My phone blew up with other Indian Americans saying, "Make it clear he doesn't speak for us." Yep. I mean, to sit there lecturing a black man about black history was totally uncalled for. And then he didn't have all his historical facts. I mean, the Indian American community in this country holds a huge debt to the African American community. If it weren't for the civil rights movement, the 1965 Immigration Reform Act wouldn't have passed. My parents wouldn't have come to America. Before that, basically, immigrants from Asia and Africa were not allowed to come. It was highly discriminatory.
It's really ironic because neither his nor my parents could have come here under the rules before the Civil Rights Act, before that 65 Civil Rights Bill. But he's acting as if the NRA somehow saved African Americans in the Civil War. The NRA wasn't even formed until 1871. Well, he doesn't know anything about African American history. He clearly doesn't know the reasons for the Civil War because he thinks the purpose of the Civil War was to get black people the right to bear arms. Well, I mean, what?
All right, guys. So
So I think the bigger thing here is that obviously that these people are ignorant, but Vivek Ramaswamy has a actual case about this. He has a retort, and let's hear what he has to say here.
Case. Chief Justice Taney held for the Supreme Court that black people could not be citizens before the Civil War because that would allow them to own guns. After the Civil War, the first anti-gun laws, gun control laws that were passed in this country, were actually passed to stop black people from owning guns. These are some of the facts that I educated Don Lemon on set in a heated exchange that we had shortly before his firing. So shortly after that exchange, Joy Reid, an MSNBC host, has Ro Khanna, a Democratic politician who happens to be an Indian American, as a stand-in for the Indian American view, criticizing me for supposedly stating falsehoods. Actually, everything I stated is factually true based on U.S. history, but criticizing at length my supposed falsehoods, and then has Ro Khanna effectively licking her feet, which is exactly what she wanted on air, talking about how Indian Americans owe black Americans a debt of gratitude. So I thought it was remarkable that here's a TV host, supposedly who wants to engage in open debate about my views on this post-Civil War history, who's talking about me on air extensively to another Indian American second-rate stand-in, but won't talk to me directly, so I made an offer. I said, if you want to have a debate about this, if you think that your recounting of the post-Civil War history is any different than mine, let's have that debate in the open.
This is the thing that they play, though, right? They never want to have a legitimate debate against somebody that has intelligence, that is articulate, that is that can actually refute their actual stuff here. All right, you need to have a legitimate know about the Civil War, and I don't think Joy Reid is very intelligent at all. I think she's a moron that is just allowed to stay on MSNBC because of her woke ideology, and that's really it. I don't think she is even remotely slightly intelligent, and I also think that she's highly, highly racist. So that being said, I think the issues comes to I think the biggest thing here is that we won't ever get debate from these people because they fear us, because anything that because if we have to debate with these people, they're obviously going to be shown that they are liars. They don't know what they're talking about. They're idiots, and they are going to try to frame you as a bad person whenever the chance that they get. And this is just the game that they play. I think Vivek knows this, but this is just the game that they play, and it will continue to play for the end of time because they're actual cowards.
What do we get? Silence. This is what the modern left does, and Joy Reid embodies it. Very well, actually. Cower in fear and hide. Talk a big game when you're talking to your own community, when you're talking to the people who agree with you, but cower in fear when it comes to actually confronting the other side in open debate. Now, more recently, she was spouting off about affirmative action after the Supreme Court came down with its ruling, saying that she would not have gotten into Harvard without affirmative action. I believe her. I think that's probably true. But then she also complained that she was judged negatively by her peers because she got in based on affirmative action. I actually said that that's wrong. It's wrong to black Americans, it's wrong to Asian Americans or white Americans who are discriminated against, but it's even unfair to black Americans, many of whom I went to school with, who would have got in meritocratically anyway. It's unfair that they're judged that way.
I agree. I think affirmative action is a cancer and a very racist thing that has happened in this country, and I'm glad that it has been resolved to where everybody can get in based on their merit. And yes, Joy Reid, people were angry that you got in and do the affirmative action because you didn't actually earn it. You just got in because of your skin color, and that was it. I would understand their anger because they're working hard, they're trying to get in by their own merits, and by being, white or Indian, or God forbid, if you're Chinese, if you're Asian, that you don't get in because of your merit, but because you don't get in because of your skin color, the race that you are. So yes, I could understand why people would be quite angry when you get in and your intelligence level is not high enough to get into Harvard or any of these other places because of your legitimate stupidity. So, they actually are more intelligent than you, and you get in because of what affirmative action. Yeah, I can kind of understand why that might make some people angry.
So I said so, and then Joy Reid again, classic pattern, talking about me instead of to me, says that, oh, Vivek Ramaswamy also wouldn't have gotten into Harvard but for affirmative action. That is a lie, and it reflects a shocking combination of gall and ignorance, failing to pay attention to the fact that that case argued in front of the Supreme Court was brought on behalf of Asian Americans, that includes Indian Americans, who are systematically discriminated against, penalized by affirmative action, which rewards Black and Hispanic Americans. So that combination of ignorance but self-confidence embodies the modern left. And the sad part of it is, folks like Joy Reid, again, they have utter, total, apparent comfort with spewing falsehoods and doing it to only the silos and the echo chambers that agree with them. Totally comfortable to talk about me at length and all the reasons why I'm supposedly wrong, when in fact I'm grounded in fact. But what I say is, okay, if I believe in my views and you believe in yours, I'm open to having it out in the open. That's where I talk to Chuck Todd or Don Lemon, go on the Breakfast Club. I show up and believe in open dialogue and debate. That's how we get to truth. It's a shame to see that some of the leading commentators for the modern left, when push comes to shove, really just go back into their caves to hide from the truth, wallowing in their own fear. What I'll say is, Joy, from one alum to another, the offer still stands. I understand why you'd like to hide from debate, but I think it's better for the country if you're actually engaging with the people who disagree with you, rather than talking about them with falsehoods without actually confronting the facts.
I 100% agree. And again, as I said, these people play it this way. They'll attack you with somebody else judging you and stuff like that without actually having confrontation. And this is part of the reason why I go off my opinions and stuff like that, mostly because of the fact that these are opinions. But I'm not going to go off of somebody that I'm going to debate with that I have no knowledge in. I'll give them my opinions, and I'll still debate them on some of the things, but obviously, if I have no knowledge in this situation, I'm not going to say things I have no knowledge in. Like, I'm not going to debate on the actual legitimate Civil War, because one, I am not too high in on the Civil War. I haven't done enough work on it. So that's the reason why I'm going to do more research on the Civil War and stuff like that. Because, school doesn't really teach you much of the Civil War or anything important of American history, because for some reason American history is bad. So we have this from Ramaswamy here, a reason why he's running for president of the United States. And I think this video is a very good video to start with, and to kind of understand what Ramaswamy is, and a few other things as well.
Crisis. Faith, patriotism, and hard work have disappeared, only to be replaced by new secular religions like COVIDism, climatism, and gender ideology. We hunger to be part of something bigger than ourselves, yet we cannot even answer the question of what it means to be an American. Today, the woke left preys on that vacuum. They tell you that your race, your gender, and your sexual orientation govern who you are, what you can achieve, and what you're allowed to think. This is psychological slavery, and that has created a new culture of fear in our country that has completely replaced our culture of free speech in America. And that is why today I am announcing my run for President of the United States. This isn't just a political campaign. This is a cultural movement to create a new American dream for the next generation. To me, the American dream means you believe in merit, that you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. It means you believe the people who we elect to run the government are the ones who actually run the government, not a federal bureaucracy that grows like a national cancer that is now metastasizing to the private sector. It means that the best ideas win instead of getting censored. It means you don't have to choose between speaking your mind freely and putting food on the dinner table. It means you believe these ideals form the backbone of the greatest nation on earth, that the rest of the world still looks up to as its example, not the Soviet Union in the last century, and not communist China in this one either. That is the new American dream. Ask yourself if you believe in these ideals. I think most of you do. I think most of you believe your neighbors do too, though you can't be sure because you don't feel free to talk about it anymore. You might disagree with each other about corporate tax rates or about whether ivermectin treats COVID, but those are details. We still agree on our nation's most fundamental principles. At least most of us do. Yet the goal of the ruling party in this country is to convince us that we are divided. Why? So they can accumulate more power for themselves. Well, you know what? I have a dream that we can be one people again. We have obsessed so much over our diversity and our differences that we forgot all the ways we're really just the same as Americans, bound together by a common set of ideals that brought together a divided, diverse, headstrong group of people 250 years ago. And I believe deep in my bones that those ideals still exist, and I am running for president to revive them. E pluribus unum. From many, one. That is the dream that won the American Revolution. That is the dream that reunited us after the Civil War. That is the dream that won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is the dream that still gives hope to the free world today. And if we can revive that dream over fractious group identity, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, is going to defeat us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about. And that is what we will need to revive to save this great nation.
I would agree with a lot what Vivek says, and this is part of the reason why I actually made my YouTube channel, was because it wasn't just because, you know, I made my YouTube channel because I seen the chaos and the destruction of the world, and I actually want to make something, try to do something to do a bit different. But what I wanted to do was make a YouTube channel, a YouTube videos, specifically trying to stop the divide. I know my audience is small, and my audience is not really is not big enough to do what I want to do quite yet. But I'm hoping sometime in the future that I can make events, get people both on the Democratic side, independent side, etc., and even Republican side, and make events to where we can all get together and enjoy ourselves, have time to where we don't have to hate each other. We can still be together, still have our disagreements, and still play the same games, still do things, still talk to each other, stuff like that, regardless of the situation. I think there's a lot more of us that are closer to each other than it seems, than we realize, right? I think that we together as a people, as Americans, think more alike than what we think. And I think most of us are just,
But I went to the-
I think people that are specifically just don't know what's going on, and I want to inform them. I want to show them, and they make their own decisions in what they think is right in their life for their families, for their people. And this is something. And at the end of the day, we're Americans. We're not divided. We're not a separate. We are all the same. We have our different opinions, but that's the reason what makes us great, right? We make our greatness. We became the #1 country. We became the greatest country in the world because of the mere fact of all of our idealism, the way that our forefathers fought for our freedoms, the way that we became. Yes, we have a disgusting history, and I think every country does. I don't think any country, regardless that's in the world, has a good history. We all come from disgusting slavery, horrible violence, wars, and stuff like that. But what makes that's not what defines us, right? What the present defines us now, and what we have done in many of these years in the past, 50 years, we have done so much for our people, for our country, and we have obviously the far left that are trying to separate us, are trying to divide us. And we need to become united. And I think that's one thing that I can get back with Vivek Ramaswamy for, because of the mere fact that he is trying to stop the divide, as I am trying to stop the divide. Because the divide does not need to be here in this country. We are a people of this country, and I think that that is what's important. And I think this video here is going to show to take care of Americans first, which I 100% agree on. I don't think that we need to govern the world. I don't think that we need to govern what people do. We should be a shining beacon onto what countries and other people should be proud of, but we should not be governing them. So without further ado, here is this video.
The south side of Chicago, It's one of the places it's not really where the political advisors would tell you to go if you're in a Republican primary. I went to Kensington in downtown, in the inner city of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. And I'll tell you, the people in those rooms, especially on the south side of Chicago, where they're converting South Shore High School into an encampment for migrants who they're spending $7,000 per person per month on. This is the supposedly far left, nearly entirely black, Democratic voting bloc. And I have never heard more eloquent cases for securing the border and actually prioritizing the interests of Americans than I heard in that room.
What did they say?
They said, what about us?
Yeah.
Was actually the right way to say that. And it came out in many ways where, look, we are Christians. We believe in treating these people humanely. But it's not right that they're spending $7,000 a month and getting baby formula when I couldn't find baby formula a year ago. I can't buy sneakers for my kids. They're providing sneakers for those kids. How does that work? How is that advancing my interest? And actually, you just reminded me of this. Many of them were asking me, as though I was on the side of it, of why on earth we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. So it was interesting to me that the traditional partisan boundaries as drawn are really sort of retrofitted. We're sort of shoehorning an old structure. We're sort of shoehorning the modern truth into sort of an antiquated view where I don't think the dividing line in our country is between Republicans and Democrats right now. I think it is between those of us who are pro-American, who believe in the ideals of this country, who will not apologize for those ideals, who will stand up and sacrifice for those ideals, and those of us who are, and it exists in this country, I mean, the Vice President's a great embodiment of this, anti-American. Those who wish to apologize for a nation founded on our ideals. But if you
I 100% agree. I think that our ideals were great. Now, obviously, when we talk about ideals, I'm not talking about the racism and stuff like that, but like the true meaning of our ideals is to be independent, free, own what you can, own and buy stuff what you can. The true embodiment of freedom. Whenever I was a kid, in this instance, to where I always had this fear to where my freedom was going to be revoked, where I wasn't allowed to do things, and things were limited. And as a kid, you are limited in doing things. You don't have that freedom. But as I age, I still have this thing there where I want to have the freedom to do what I want. Obviously, when you use your freedoms in terms of being negative, in terms of what would be like committing crimes or causing harassment to other people, that's not okay, right? But having the freedom to do what you want when you want is very, very useful and very empowering. And that's what it should always be for every human. They should not be not allowed to do certain things just because, the political ideology or whatever. Freedom, you have to sacrifice for it. You have to sacrifice some things, and being a coward doesn't really help that. This country is in disarray, and that is true, and I think Vivek is trying to fix that in this regard. And we need people that are going to stand up for our ideals, like Vivek said, stand up for what they deem is right, because that is the reality of everything. We have to defend our ideals, our freedoms, and what have you, and not have to apologize for the things that we stood for. Obviously, we disavow and don't allow slavery. We don't want that back. We don't want racism back, even though that's kind of propping up more recently. But we want actual stuff like that. And about with the whole racism thing, too. Here's a story for y'all to kind of understand. When I was within racism and stuff like that, I crashed my vehicle. And it wasn't really like a huge crash. It wasn't like a big deal. And then I crashed, and then the cops tried to get one of my best friends to go against me and say that I was like a villain, I was a bad guy, and that I should press charges and stuff like that. And obviously, my best friend did not do this because I would have a record and stuff like that. But they were trying to turn me against him and try to arrest me, etc., etc. At least one of the cops were. I don't know about entire of the cops, but at least one cop was. And they put him in the cop car as well, and he was obviously of Asian descent or whatever. So me and him both experienced the same type of racism, but they want to say that that it's all over the place. It's not. It does happen, but it's not frequent. That's the only time that I may have experienced quote unquote racism, and there was only one Pacific cop that we seen it to where the rest were not trying to do this. The one cop was not trying to racially profile me. There's just one, and you're going to get bad apples and everything. And ironically enough, I don't go with this typical white racism. This every white cop is bad and stuff like that. All cops are bad. I never come out with that philosophy. I just came out with thinking that, well, some cops are assholes and some are not, and that's just the reality with everybody.
Divided up that way, it is not 50-50 anymore. It's not even close. It's easily 80-20 in our favor, and half the 20 are people younger than me who never learned what those ideals were in the first place. We're going to bring them along too. And I think we have an opportunity to do in this country in 2024 what Ronald Reagan did in 1980. Deliver a landslide election, call the bluff on the division. Much of it is artificial. I fell for it, right? Even when I started this campaign, I'm running for the Republican candidate for U.S. president.
Before I let him finish, it's like, yeah, they don't teach American stuff anymore in schools. It's just quite a given. If you're a full-on American, you're a full-on patriot, it's a problem, right? So, yeah.
I don't even talk about Republicans that much anymore. I try not to use the word. Not because it's a bad word, but because it doesn't mean anything. Right? If half the Republican, 3/4 of the Republican Party's got the same policy as Biden on the most important foreign policy matter of our time, and if much of the Democratic Party, or at least people on the south side of Chicago, believe in using the military on the southern border and putting the interests of Americans first, I'm not sure those labels are doing much for us now. And one of the things, I actually just got this stat yesterday from my campaign, 40% of the donors to our campaign are first-time ever donors to the Republican Party in any form ever. And the normal number is 2%. So I think this should actually give us hope for possibility. If we're willing to take the shackles off a little bit, relax a little bit on, identity can be confining. Right? The left does this masterfully. You're black, therefore you can't achieve something. You're a woman, therefore you can't achieve something. Identity's confining. You can be imprisoned in the identities that you inherit. And I just want to be careful that we learn from the left, or learn including what not to do, to be confined and imprisoned by our own identity of what it means to be Republican. Let's just let that word go and instead ask the question of what it actually means to be an American today. That's the question of our time. And you ask people my age that question, you get like a deer in the headlights response. It's like, it's a blank stare initially. But on the other side of that is then an introspection to say, okay, there are certain ideals that we fought a revolution for in this country. Self-governance over aristocracy, sovereignty as a nation, free speech, meritocracy. That you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and contributions. That's what it means to be an American. That's what we're running to. And honest to God, Tucker, I think that if we do this right, if we actually prioritize our vision, what we stand for, I think it's going to be a landslide election for I'm not going to say a Republican candidate, a pro-American candidate in this race.
I agree. I think that that 100% that we need more Americanism in this country. And I don't ever think that trying to divide us by political things like American or Democrat or Republican, I think those are divisive terms. I think it's just for Americanism is probably the greatest tool. Maybe that should be the third party, is Americanism. And that is something that that should be ringing true. I don't like the whole Republican thing, and I don't like the whole Democratic thing. And I like the term Americanism, or at least American at the very least, because there is no division there when you say Americanism, right? Because American means everybody. A Republican only means a certain set of group of people. Democrats only mean one set of group of people. Americanism, being American, means everybody, because everybody is American. And if you're going to say that you're against being an American, that means you're against what you're doing for this country, regardless of what you see, right? And that could be the third party that we could call ourselves as the Americanists or the Americans or what have you. But again, I don't think there should be any party. I think there should just be a party of individuals, say Ron DeSantis as a Ron DeSantis group, or Trump as a Trump group, or what have you, even though that's still a bit divisive because you're going to have people that are going to be voting for Trump or people voting for DeSantis or what have you, which, you know, you'll be divisive. But at least you're voting for one particular person. He's not a Republican or Democrat. He's just that person, rather than, you know, being a Republican, which is divisive, or being Democrat, which is divisive. I think being American can't really be divisive because it means you're everybody. But these are things that we could play with. Here's a little bit more from Vivek Ramaswamy here, and stuff like that, where I think that is good to go with here.
It was a pretty monumental day in the 2024 GOP primary. Donald Trump saw another group of polls showing that he's not just winning nationally among Republican voters, but continues to dominate the first three states of the cycle. Ron DeSantis, who's still likely his top challenger, had a day to forget. His standing in the RCP average is tied to its lowest point since he entered the race. And then came the announcement this afternoon that his campaign was cutting a third of their staff, trying to reset things there. That's not to say he should be ruled out. John McCain, remember, famously fired twice as many staffers as DeSantis did today, and he still went on to win the nomination. But, of course, he didn't win the presidency. Though the candidate shopping has begun in earnest, I think, and Senator Tim Scott has seen a small bump in support, but the biggest surge may be that of my next guest. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy now finds himself firmly in third place and is closing the gap on DeSantis. He joins me now. Vivek, so good to see you. What do you make of the current state of the race? You've been very complimentary of President Trump. And you have the same policies generally as President Trump. Has that led to your success, now pulling in number three?
I think part of what's leading my success, Laura, is that I'm not running against any of our candidates. I am running for this country. And I think part of our mistake as Republicans is that we have been involved in litigating the grievances of the past, focused on issues that actually aren't at the top of the mind of Americans. I'm focused on actually reviving our missing national identity. And we've had most of our success, Laura, in this campaign when I've gotten into specific solutions, an actual economic vision for this country. That is the top issue on voters' minds, an actual clear vision of how we will shut down the administrative state. Not just a slogan about the deep state, but offering exact detail on how we will do it. And the one thing I've discovered, Laura, is I'm not following the advice of my political advisors and consultants who tell me to dumb it down and keep it simple.
I love it.
Our Republican primary voter base is they're smart base. And I think if we respect that voter base, what I'm learning is they're respecting me back. And that's what's driving our rise.
I would someone agree with this. Yeah. I think that the biggest thing here is that which is Vivek, is that he wants to go after the administrative base. He wants to get rid of people like Mitch McConnell. He wants to get rid of like people like Lindsey Graham and stuff like that. At least from what he's saying, get rid of the administrative state, the deep state. And that's very, very good because that's something that we've been needing. And the fact of the matter is, and this would be huge if Trump does not win and Vivek does, is that it shows that this country cannot be racist, because we were obviously not racist to begin with because we had a black president, but we had an Indian president. And the Indian president is what everybody voted for the Americans. And that's part of one of the things, as messed up as it sounds, guys, and don't get me wrong, I don't want this to be the case. But if Vivek does get in, it shows that we're not racist because we voted for an Indian guy. And the only thing that the Democrats could play for any sort of racism is like, okay, well, you voted for an Indian guy, he's like the face of white supremacy or something stupid like they did with what, I forgot his name. But but the fact of the matter is that that's all they could play. But you can't say that America is racist because he's Indian and he's not white. So again, the Democrats would lose in that retrospect. I think Vivek is a very, very, very strong candidate. And I really want to see Trump and Vivek go head to head on who would be our best candidate. And I think Vivek might be our best candidate for this. The only reason why I probably won't vote for him as of currently is because of I want to see what his actual goals are, what his reasonings for getting rid of the state. And this is something that I think we'll probably only see with Donald Trump and Vivek going head to head, and that's the only way that I can see it. And I do not want I want to see this in true fruition, and I don't. That's the only way that we can truly decide.
That is music to my ears because I would fire all the consultants. Okay, they're usually wrong, and they get paid a huge amount of money to do precisely nothing. Okay, so fire most of the consultants; they're just generally worthless. Commentator Dave Rubin is a DeSantis supporter. I'm told he spoke about your campaign yesterday. Watch this.
It's fairly obvious to anyone paying attention that Trump and Vivek are coordinating, right? Vivek is doing all endless attacks on DeSantis, no attacks on Trump, and all of the Trump surrogates online, you know who they are. They're always pumping up Vivek because Vivek's going after DeSantis.
So, Vivek, is that your role here? I mean, he seems to have it all figured out.
Well, look, I think a commentator's job is to be a commentator from the side. But the fact is, I'm not attacking DeSantis. I do believe in drawing policy contrasts. That's good for the Republican voters. I am running to win this election. And at this point, Laura, I am confident I will be our next president. And for my case, this isn't about November 2024 as the destination. The destination I think about is January of 2033. What do I want to tell the people of this country that we actually accomplished? One of the great farewell speeches of all time was Ronald Reagan's in January of 1989, when he said that we had revived a national character that we were missing. That's what I want to tell Americans in January of 2033. We're going to do that by reviving the economy, declaring independence from China. And I think what's driving our rise, Laura, and I think that it's okay that it's making some of the others insecure, that's going to level our party up, and that's a good thing, is
Vivek,
offering
really,
specificity of where we are going.
I think that's right. I think people are looking for specific solutions. Really quickly, though, what are you going to do, or what do you see in terms of getting the early ballots in people's hands, voting early to get those votes banked, and then ballot harvesting where it's legal? I mean, there are a lot of Republicans like, oh, we can't do that. It's all cheating. But, okay, the other side's doing it. How do you get to 270 really quickly?
The maximally lawful way of competing, we have to compete. There's an old saying on the court from John Newcomb in tennis. Either you win the match or you leave blood on the court. We're not going to leave blood. We're going to win. And that's exactly how we have to compete to win this election because the stakes are too high, Laura. And I also think we need a landslide. This cannot be 50.1. This needs to be Reagan 1980 style revolution. I'm planning for the Ramaswamy revolution in 2024.
All right, Vivek, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much. Now, we just got some breaking news ahead on.
This is what I love about Ramaswamy. He seems like he's going to do it, and I think it's going to be hard to beat Trump. I do agree that I think it's going to be hard to beat Trump, but I would not mind Vivek Ramaswamy president. I would not mind this at all. I think he could do it, and I think that he wants to really change America and fix it. And I think Trump or Vivek would be excellent candidates for this. And I can't wait to see what he has in store for us Americans. And he certainly has my vote. Trump has my vote. Either one which we choose. These two have my vote. DeSantis is now honestly out of the water right now. I don't think that DeSantis is going to be good enough for this country. Currently, I think he needs a little more time in the cooking pot. But I think that I think Vivek and Trump are our go-to people right now, and these people will probably lead America into a great, better state than anybody else would than these two. All right, guys. I hope you guys had a great day. It's a little bit short, but I'll be posting clips and stuff of this stuff from this channel or what have you, or this stream, and hopefully I'll have more coming up. So yeah, without further ado, guys, like, subscribe, share. As always, take care. Have a wonderful